know me, I'm Lynn Barrett. I'm president of the board of Vermont Independent Media, which is the nonprofit publisher of the Commons newspaper. And particularly very excited tonight because we're re-establishing the Media Mentoring Project, which actually was formed and created back right before the Commons was founded, so 15 years ago or so. And they ran it for a couple of years. It was a great program. And then unfortunately, they had to cancel it because of lack of capacity. So tonight is the first event that we're bringing back to the Brattleboro area. And this program will be going on for years to come, ideally. And we're looking also to get into the schools. The original program was in the schools, and I think Nancy Olson is here tonight, and she actually created the curriculum for the Brattleboro School. With what's going on in the world today, people need to understand media. There's a lot of fake media, as we know, out there. So this program is really to help people get their voices heard, whether it's nonprofits or individuals, entrepreneurs, whoever it is, help them be able to get the kind of attention that they're looking for. So basically, it's also at a time when we believe, more voices need to be heard. That's how we're going to keep our democracy. And that's really one of the other missions of the Commons, that, it represents education mission for the Commons. And so we're thrilled to be coming back, and thank you all for joining us. Okay, so the workshops, as I mentioned, will be ongoing once a month with different subject matters. And I'll kind of talk about those at the end. This particular workshop is going to go for 2 sessions. And I think, with me today, of course, if you hadn't seen on the screen, is Randy Holhut, news editor of the Commons, and Keith Marks, executive director of Next Stage Arts. And so they will be talking right after this. And I think Keith is going to give you a little homework for the next session. So I also want to give a quick shout out to BCTV for helping us organize this, and also Brattleboro Savings and Loan. And without them, we really wouldn't be here tonight. So the format today will be to please put questions in the chat. After Randy's talk, we may take a few questions, and then during Keith's talk, he may field a couple of questions there, but basically most questions can be answered at the end, if that's okay with you guys. And now I will be, just before we get started, the media has changed, over the years. There are more and more ways to get the word out, for better or for worse. And so there is a visual that I'm hoping Nolan can show. And these are, some of the ways to, where you can draw attention to what you're trying to do. What makes an event, we're going to be getting into some of these issues later, but what makes an event project media worthy, how to play off social media, how to capture the imagination of the media, the public, social media, the world, opportunities to reach your audience and get them to pay attention and take action. Of course, there's the press release, which is not on here, media news alerts, which are basically the pieces that you send to television and radio, because they don't really read press releases that much. Individual pitches to media, where you have a particular idea for a particular reporter, and so it's a special pitch. It's not a press release. events, which we're talking about tonight, social media, which we're talking about tonight, certainly the internet. There's huge opportunities on the internet, interviews on radio, TV, and the print media, podcasts, YouTube, videos, images, postering, getting spokespeople to talk about your event, even celebrities. We used to say in the old days, when you have nothing with nothing, get a celebrity. Authors, journalists. I know, for example, Brattleboro has a special PR program going now with influencers. What's an influencer? Could be a social media personality that hundreds of thousands of friends, and she influences those. It could be a USA Today reporter, could be the Commons. But I know Brattleboro is working with reporters and influencers all over the country and bringing them to town. Politicians are always good. One of the first things we did with Strolling of the Heifers was to get our legislature involved as the advisory council to the stroll. All they had to do was give us their name and likeness and permission to use those. And that was very impressive for people. Trusted community leaders, of course, the same. Different partnerships and collaborations, like thank goodness we're partnering tonight with BCTV and BSNL. One of the most annoying things, but one of the key things, of course, is having updated press lists. So now we actually are, going to talk about the press release, and that's really the kind of the first thing you need to be thinking about and getting it right. And Randy is here to give us all the good news.
So I'm Randy Holhut. I'm the news editor of the Commons, and I'm your first point of contact if you're getting into the newspaper. So you have to go through me if you want to get your message out. So how do you get past me? I'm the gatekeeper. I'm the one who sees all the emails that come cascading into the newsroom every day and decide what ones will get in and what form will they take. Basically, for us, a news release serves three purposes. It could be the guide for a story. So if there's information there that looks like it should be expanded upon or is interesting, I'll send it along to a reporter and they'll do a story about it. It could serve as a standalone piece in the Commons, and that is mostly how news releases get used. We edit them to our style and fit them in either as a standalone article or condensed for the Around the Towns feature that we have in the paper. And the third thing is that if we're really condensing, we put them into the calendar page that we have. So a start for a story, a standalone story as it is, or a calendar item. Those are the three things that your item, your email that flows into news@commonsnews.org is handled. So what do you need to get my attention and make me say, I ought to do something with this. This ought to be in the paper. Well, first, it's got to be clear. What are you trying to say? And what is the message that you're trying to convey? Once you got that down, then you have to work on the next thing, which is it's got to be concise. Can you explain what you're doing in a sentence or two? If you don't know it, the reader's not going to know it. And it has to be informative. When and where is the event happening? What do the attendees need to do? Whom do they have to contact if they have any questions? So in other words, better make sure the phone number and the email address is correct in your Facebook handle and everything else. So, okay, you fulfilled those goals. What makes a good press release? What makes me happy? What makes me happy? Brevity. I always tell, when people ask, how long should I write? I always tell them shorter is better than longer. In other words, try and say what you need to say without any extraneous words or phrases. Then once you get past writing short, the next step is accuracy. Spell the names and places correctly. Phone numbers and emails better be correct, or else somebody's going to be annoyed at getting the emails you should be getting instead. The quotes, if you use them in your press release for people you talk to, make sure they're correct, and make sure any statement of fact you have in the press release is correct. We do check on these things. Jeff checks on these things. Jeff Potter, the editor, he's the person who backstops me after I'm done with the edit of your news release. And then following style. This is the problem where press releases often fall down. Now, as any of the professionals in this room know, the Associated Press style book is the style book that most publications, most media outlets use. That is the style. Magazines, they use what's known the Chicago Manual style, which differs from AP style. And then we at the Commons, because Jeff edited magazines in his past, and that my background was in daily journalism, we kind of use a hybrid of the two approaches. Like the one thing we argue about, and grammar nerds argue about this frequently, the serial comma, which is not a nice crunchy treat you have at breakfast, but the comma that you put on and when you're listing 3 items. So faith, hope, and charity. Do you put the third pair comma in, the Oxford comma as it's known? AP says, no, you don't. Chicago says, yes, you do. Jeff says, Commons, yes, you do. And most times it works, but when in doubt, put the comma in, and then we'll decide what to do with it. And generally, if you follow AP style, everyone pretty much uses that. That's your best bet for making a good press release. So you know what's a good press release. If you do those things, you probably got something that people are going to read and not cringe over. What makes a bad press release? Jargon. Spell things out for the reader. Let them know if something's unfamiliar or unclear. And then puffery. This always gets me. And being the person in this room who's designed to prevent you guys from getting too puffing up your events too much. In other words, if you overuse the adjectives and superlatives and exclamation points, I'm going to change them. I can guarantee you that. So stick to nouns and proper nouns and active verbs, please. And that will give you a good shot of getting in the paper. And then, of course, errors in spellage and usage. Remember, spell check is not proof check, and that autocorrect sometimes introduces more errors than it prevents. Give everything a good once over before you send it out, and if it's possible, have somebody else in your who's working with you say have someone else take a look at it and see if they can find mistakes. It always helps to have a second reader on anything. Nobody writes perfectly. Nobody's, and everybody needs a good editor. Everybody. And then disorganization, and the information's not in the proper order, and it's hazy and confusing. And finally, lack of timeliness. For our paper, The Commons, our hard and fast deadline for things is our Friday before the following Wednesday when we publish. So if we get it by that time, you'll probably get it in. It's best to send 2 weeks in advance. 1 week, close, but we'll get in. If you're sending me something on Monday and Tuesday before the Wednesday we go to publish, it's probably not going to happen. It might be able to squeeze it in the calendar, but there's no guarantee that it will. So unless something is of transcendent importance that it has to be in immediately, it's a big thing, like say the sale of Marlborough College goes through, like yet in this week's edition of the paper. That one we turned around fast because that's news. Anything else, maybe not so much. So now that you know that, let's talk about something that's universal for press releases: good writing, the secrets to good writing. And it's not really too much of a secret. Most of it I got from this book that I've been using for a long time, called Writing for Your Readers. It's from Donald Murray. He used to be he's left us now, but when he was still among us, he was the writing coach for the Boston Globe. And he also taught at the University of New Hampshire and wrote many books on writing. One of the best people I know in how to write clearly. And the basics of good writing, as he would put it, is collect, order, and clarify. Collect all the information you need, order it in the way it needs to be said, and then edit it down, clarify, and determine the best way to tell the story. So that's strong, vigorous words to get across the point, short sentences that convey the information with a minimum of fluff, and not wasting the reader's time or the listener's time or the viewer's time. Get to the point, say what needs to be said clearly and concisely, answer all the questions that a reader might have. Do those things and you'll get the point that you're trying to make across. And it's necessary, good writing. I mean, I know now in the digital age, writing that tends to be seen as a stepchild. No, it is not. Writing is necessary no matter what medium you work in. Good writing never goes out of style. Simple, clear, and direct writing never goes out of style. Do those things, and I will give you, I wouldn't say guarantee, but you have a really good chance of getting what you want to say across. But this is the cranky old editor talking. And maybe you want to talk to somebody who has a little more knowledge of how things are done in those other things that I have had no participation in. In other words, social media and the Facebook thing and the Twitter thing and all those other things. I stick with print. So I know print. I'll give you to an expert who knows a little bit about the other stuff. So take it away, Keith.
So, hello, I'm Keith Marks. I am currently the executive director at Next Stage Arts. I'll start with a quote. A friend of mine who's a graphic designer who I worked with in Florida used to say to me, "Good design is design you don't notice." And when I asked him to clarify that point, he said, think of a doorknob. If it was placed on the bottom of a door, you'd certainly notice the doorknob. We turn doorknobs all day and never think about them because they're placed in a good place. And so good design is design you don't notice. And so I'd like to apply that into our conversation today that sort of sets the tone, is that, you know, ultimately being a promoter, working on events and getting people to pay attention is a thankless job. When it's done poorly, it's all your fault. But when it's done well, nobody really notices all the work that went into it. I'll start with a little bit of my history and my background. I moved here about 1.5 years ago from Florida. I ran a nonprofit down there called Avant, which you'll see some of the work Avant has done in this course, in this program. I started promoting concerts when I was about 16 or 17. I made a lot of mistakes. And I wound up really getting frustrated at the events, lack of attendance, or things weren't done properly. And I really never enjoyed the work. I lamented over the things that I could have done better. I started working toward delivering everything that I could do in my capacity to deliver an experience. No matter what happened, I really tried to do everything I could over the years of learning how to be a promoter, to make sure that I could enjoy the event, whether there was one person at the show or 1,000 at the show. If I knew that I had done everything in my power and used and exhausted every single tool available to me, I made it a point to really start enjoying the fruits of my labor to the best of my ability. I'm going to walk you through some of my process, and I'm going to understand that I'm speaking about my own work that I do. And so some of this may not be applicable to your business, to your event. So I'll say, take what works for you and leave what does not. And understand that this is more art than it is science. Find your creativity through this. And so we'll sort of jump into the overall piece to this, which is like the psychology. And I'll say that sadly, people are not jumping through hoops to disrupt their routine or to break out of their inertia of laziness or comfort. Seeking out new things isn't a primary motivator for most of us. And unfortunately, the primary motivator for a lot of people is FOMO, the fear of missing out. And so the goal of any great event is really to create enough buzz that people really feel like they're going to miss out on something special. They've heard it over and over again from multiple sources, and it feels like something they're going to miss out on, that they should be there. That's a strong motivator for people to disrupt their patterns and routines. And so our job is really to promote a feeling and cultivate a feeling of potential future thinking disappointment, right? So like they're going to think about the show is on Friday. They're going to be thinking on Thursday, if I don't go to that show on Saturday, I'm going to regret it. That kind of feeling that they have to be there is really what we're sort of cultivating. There is an ecosystem here of tools that exist, and Lynn pointed out a lot of those tools. And a lot of time as promoters, we have those tools and we see the tools as sort of like the end result. Like if I get I'll print a poster, I'll hang it, I'll post on social media, I'll send a press release. And, when nobody shows up to my event, I go, oh, why didn't it work? And I would like for us to think that is really the bare minimum, right? The difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur in my mind is that, somebody who opens a business and hangs a shingle and then waits for the community to come and support them, as opposed to the entrepreneurial spirit where they're engaging their community and becoming a relevant part to somebody's life and to somebody's community. The goal is to view all of these tools as just that, as tools. The ultimate goal is to create a media ecosystem that employs all and ultimately has them all working together to create that buzz that we're looking for. It's a unified strategy, and they need to work in tandem as much as we can bring them all together. So that's the sort of overall approach that I'm working from, is that I don't really look at anything as sort of the end goal or the end result. It's really an ecosystem to create buzz. Let's start with the most important tool and resource that you have at your disposal, and that's your team, the community of people that surround and support you. And this can't be understated. Surrounding yourself with the best team that you can. You want to have great designers, great photographers, caterers, people who have a sense of follow through that you can trust, people who share your work ethic, that work as hard as you do and believe in it as much as you do. In Florida, I had a team of people that when I executed an event, they made me look great. They made the organization look like a world-class organization. And it was really by assembling the right team and the right people who were committed enough and could follow through and execute at a high level, to the level that I was imagining that I was executing at. So that's like the first rule is find your people, find your tribe. So the tools, we'll kind of go through a number of different kind of steps in the process that are I consider tools. And the first one is like, don't skimp on design. Design is important. Obviously, the meat of your event or your business is really important, right? You want to have good quality product. But if the design doesn't reflect the energy, the power, the uniqueness, you've gone from a 30-degree climb to a 70-degree climb to win over the hearts and minds of your potential audience. And so I really I was able to have a great designer in Jacksonville. And so like, I'd like to show you some of the design posters that we put out into the community. So I'm just going to share my screen here. I'm assuming everybody can see that. So I'm just going to, these are just like a handful I pulled. So let me just kind of get here. So this was a concert that we did. Actually, this is an artist that we brought here to Next Stage as well. This was a show we did at the planetarium. And there were different versions of every one of these. So you're seeing the Instagram squares of these two, right? What's this one here? That's the actual poster, so that was we tried to make all of our poster sizes unique sizes. So they would disrupt your visual cue. This is for an African music ensemble that we had. So it's a gator with drummers as teeth. This was Sophia Ray and JC Maillard that we brought. So I'll come back to some stuff in a second, but we'll come in here. There we go. So, like I said, this is I'm going to give you my approach to design, and you do what works best for you, but less text for me, right? The intent is really to just disrupt someone from their day, to stop and catch their attention as they're going in and out of the store. There's so much clutter. How do you arrest someone's eye for more than just a passing second? You're not writing a novel or a love letter. You don't need to get every piece of bit onto your marketing collateral. If you get someone's attention, you have the chance to get them interested. And if they're interested and they want more information, direct them to where they can get more information, like a website, a ticketing platform. And that way, in this day and age, if you see something you're interested in, you have a handheld device. Most people have a smartphone. They're going to research the information and find out more about it. I don't feel it's my responsibility to overwhelm someone with text when a marketing piece should really just be about arresting the eye and getting someone's attention. The next step after you get a great designer and a great piece of marketing collateral to put out is, build a network around your event. So who are your potential co-presenters, your collaborators? Who can be part of the event to make it more exciting? What additional elements can be added? Go beyond the obvious straight line of, we want to do this event and the shortest distance between 2 points. What are some of the spectacle type things, a 3-ring circus, obviously within taste and reason, but what are some of the things that you can add to your event that make that 30-degree incline, a 25-degree incline? You're going to find that you can only do so much, and you or your organization can only do so much to build the buzz and excitement and energy by bringing on organizations or people, or for me, other nonprofits. It kind of creates that buzz around the event. So that's think through whiteboard and really kind of imagine who would want to be involved in your event. In many instances, it doesn't cost you anything to bring people on and share the spotlight and the fruits of the event. This piece is called Extra Extra. So what are the elements that are newsworthy, right? Is it the location? Is it the collaborations you've created? Is it something about the artist? Is it the time of year? Does it benefit someone or some organization? Is it unique? Is there a wow factor? Why would someone care, right? And so getting back to Randy's conversation on press releases, there has to be some sort of like newsworthy, attention-grabbing interest that is going to make someone go, oh, that is kind of cool and that is interesting. And so it's up to you to really extract that from your event, right? So if I'm doing a concert, right, selling another concert that's happening in the area is less newsworthy, but something unique about the artist, right, their history, their background, or a collaboration. So we were able to bring in, over the summer for our Bandwagon Summer Series, we brought in a tap dance company from Boston. I thought bringing dance, not many organizations are doing that in this area. That made it a little bit newsworthy. This was an award-winning tap dance organization, tap dance ensemble. a little bit more newsworthy, we did it at SIT. So that was sort of a unique venue that not many people have brought shows to. We partnered with the New England Center for Circus Arts, NECA, and the Brattleboro School of Dance. So in producing that event, those elements of newsworthiness were promoted. So I'm also, I should just mention that I am watching the chat. So if anybody has questions and wants me to stop, please feel free to jump in. This next piece is about leveraging. So who are the champions, right? So before we were talking about who can you co-present and who can you collaborate with. But now the next phase is thinking about who are your champions. Who are the people that want to support you? They may not necessarily need to be on stage with you. They may not need to be involved in the actual event, but there could be people who support your organization, support the artist, or support the focus of the event. Find them and engage them. Leverage their networks. Board members, community members who have an interest in the topic. All of the buzz really can't come from you, right? It needs to start snowballing into the community as a community-wide buzz. If you're the only person or your organization is the only organization promoting it, it's obvious you're going to promote your own stuff. But when you start getting people to come up and leverage those network partners and ask them to share out the content, people start paying a little bit more attention. This next section is building out your ecosystem, right? So your ecosystem is your own personal, your business's mailing address and your social media feed, right? So you have newsletters, ticketing pages, websites, social media. Know the tool, and understand that it's not a one size fits all. Twitter is a very different tool than Instagram, which is a very different tool from a press release with it, which is a very different tool from a newsletter. And you have to really understand the power and impact of maximizing each tool that you choose to use. So like, I don't put a lot of text in Instagram because it's really a visual tool. And, Twitter is a short burst tool. You're not going to have something last, but it's getting out into the world, or understanding the impact of how media, print media, radio media, digital media, all of that work. So understanding your ecosystem of the tools you choose to use. This bit is very personal to me. It's work, right? It takes a lot of work to be a successful event or event organizer or a successful business person. I have another hat that I wear. I'm also a massage therapist, and I've been a therapist for about 20 years. And I've never spent $1 of paid advertising on any of the work that I used to do as a massage therapist, because it was a person-to-person exchange. And so I would be willing to give away free sessions to clients, to friends of clients, to leverage those networks. And so person to person will always be the strongest form of endorsement, and as a motivating factor. If a friend is going to an event and they share it with friends, that is the strongest pull than anything that goes into the newspaper or goes onto social media, right? If people know, if I have a friend that I trust, and I trust their opinion and I want to spend time with them, and they're validating an experience, I'm probably going to take a longer look at it. There's a psychology of relationships that it's about building shared experiences. And so with just about every event that I produce, I send hundreds of emails, text messages, in-person communications, and it takes me weeks. And it can't be understated that just by sharing the basic tools, I don't expect success. It takes work. And so that's the part that I think a lot of people seem to skip. is that you need to be out selling it and getting people excited about it. This next step is about relationships, building relationships with your ecosystem, with your community, right? So in Jacksonville, where I moved from, I had years to cultivate relationships, personal relationships, not superficial ones, with all of my radio, print, and TV partners. I wrote as a freelance journalist, and I knew most of the media landscape. I even had my own radio show on the NPR station in Jacksonville. And so I had embedded myself into the ecosystem of the media community, and I was able to get my events to be seen in a way that other promoters really did not invest in that. The press release, Randy covered a lot of that. I would also say that when you're sending a press release, try to make it as easy as possible for the person receiving it. They are inundated and overwhelmed by emails and press releases. So I always try to attach the release and embed it in an email. If I can, I'll go through and upload high-res photos onto our website and add the link where they can download the high-res photos, so I don't clog their email inbox with data. And so it's these extra steps of being mindful of the person on the receiving end is important. So now we're going to kind of shift gears over to sort of my general calendar of execution. I like to have posters up 4 to 6 weeks prior to any event that I do. Barry, who works here, he has a different philosophy of posters, and I also have to respect that I'm still new to the area and I'm learning the sort of psychology of place. But as a general rule of thumb, I like my posters up 4 to 6 weeks prior to get sort of that disruptive image into the subconscious of the community. And about 3 weeks out, I like to start really promoting event. I feel like 3 weeks gives enough time for people to mark it on their calendars, but without losing sight that it's months away. I'll launch the event in a newsletter, and I'll have all the ticketing, social media event pages ready. About 2 weeks out, I start sharing my marketing promo, all the videos, the photos. And that's actually something that I want to, well, let me finish this. And then about a week out, I share earned media and use, if I'm using social media, I'm boosting those things. So for instance, if the Reformer writes an article or the Commons writes an article, I'm going to share it. Again, I don't know if people are motivated by one article to come to my event, but if they see the posters and they hear their friends talking about it and they see other organizations that they care about are involved, and the Reformer and the Commons are talking about it, WVEW, the radio station's playing the music, creating this buzz. So using that earned media, I use it inside my social media to promote, and then maybe throw some money to boost the ads to expand the impact and the reach. I will also say that in addition to great design for posters, there really needs to be an emphasis also on working with people. And so in my case, it's working with artists or musicians or theater people who really have a product to sell. It's one thing for I'd rather work with a pretty good musician who has amazing marketing tools in it that they can share with me than working with a virtuosic artist that really has not done the job of investing in the business of themselves. Because if it's my job to promote the artist, right, or to the product, and they haven't given me the tools to do that, it's unfair for them to expect success from me if they haven't invested in themselves. And so that's really making sure that your product that you're marketing and pushing, or that event that you're marketing and pushing, apart from your great design, also has elements that you can share out. So is it interesting facts? Is it photos, videos? when an artist comes and writes me to want to be presented at Next Stage, immediately I'm on YouTube, I'm on Spotify, I'm doing Google searches, and it would be a difficult sell for me if I saw that they weren't investing in themselves, because I need tools to be able to market them if they're going to come to this region, say for the first time and nobody's ever heard of them. Naomi, I see your question. What is the method of embedding high-res photos in a press release so that it does not clog email inboxes? What I do is I go onto, we have a WordPress site for Next Stage. I create a new page for it. I upload the photos to that page, and then I send the link inside the press release to them. So where do you stand on using QR codes on physical media? Do you think they're still useful in promo material? They're ugly. I don't like, like my designer in Florida never would have allowed a QR code onto a poster ever. They are not a sexy delivery vehicle. But during COVID, we got more used to QR codes with sitting in restaurants. And so I don't think it's a technology that's going anywhere anytime soon. I think you can do fun guerrilla marketing media stuff with it, in terms of like leaning on it, in terms of a strong delivery. I don't know. I probably, if I had the time and resources and it was a tool in my toolbox, maybe. It's also knowing your community. So there you go. Stefan says, reduce size of the JPEG or use Dropbox or use Google. Yep. All right. Well, let's keep rolling along. Know your media, right? So know that you have paid media, right? So this is ads. You have earned media, right? Which is, the press release goes out and Randy passes it off and there's a story in the Commons. You have social media, right? Which really sits under the bubble of your channels, your ecosystem, and it's worth cultivating, right? Cultivate your audience. That's what these modern tools allow us to do. It used to be that media companies had access to the customers, your customers locked away. And that's why people paid money to big media, right? But now we have the opportunity to create our own channels. And it's the cheapest and easiest way to consistently reach people who are committed and believe in you and your product. And so for me, you must invest in it. To think that we can live in a world of strictly old school media and have the resources to consistently pump into it. I just don't see any successful corporation, local business, local nonprofit, regional, national nonprofit, not cultivating their own channel, creating content and sharing it out. And with this relationship, it's a tricky bedfellow is with paid media, right? In order for earned media to exist, right? If I want my story to come out in the Commons, there needs to be paid media to go along with it, right? We need to support independent journalism. We need to support these channels that people still read and connect to, right? I just bought an ad in the Commons this week for a show happening next week that'll run. And so in the same way that I view Next Stage as a community resource, that it has value to my community, I'm trying to envision Next Stage as a community resource that's relevant to everybody's lives in this region. And that's what I'm working towards. I have to support those things that are valuable to me as I do that. And so we could all do a better job of supporting independent media and do more. But where can I support it? It goes into the general buzz building, right? Like I don't think I'm boosting the Commons but I don't think the Commons and the Reformer are the don't have the same ability to get the message out that they once had, in part because everybody has their own ability to have their own channels, to create their own content. And so, I think that this is where the conversation comes in terms of building ecosystems, right? They exist, they're there, and they should be supported in addition to cultivating your own channels, right? And so they should be viewed in total as an ecosystem, right? We're sort of like on the other hump here, so I'll kind of move through this stuff, try to be as quick as I can. So at the event, this a lot of people, like, they promote the event, and then they forget this one, right? And that's be prepared. Give yourself time. Make sure volunteers know what their rules can execute, and hopefully they can execute without you. Ideally, have an event manager who can handle problems as they arise. Execute as perfectly as possible, right? Have good signage at your event. Be clear and concise. Think about the user's experience, right? Walk through your event. Do your own ticketing, right? Buy a ticket on your own platform to see what that's like. Really imagine the user coming through, because you've done the hard part of getting someone's attention. You've disrupted their inertia. They're at your event. For them to walk away with a negative experience of the event, especially when it was within your power, you've lost your that could have been your once you have somebody's attention, it's so much easier to keep it than it is to find another person, right? So really make sure that your execution doesn't just like fall flat at the event. User coming through, but also someone to handle media. All right. And then this is probably the most important thing that I want to say. If you take nothing away from this long-winded rant, don't give up on the last mile, right? Events are marathons, and most people run nearly the whole thing and then they collapse at the end. We put the effort into making the event. We take weeks, months of our lives. We invest and use social media, all these other tools. We invest personal social capital. We stretch, we plan, we work hard. And the most important piece of the event is what really happens after the event, right? Hire a photographer, hire a videographer, hire BCTV, right? Understand what types of shots you need and you get them. For me, when I work with a photographer, I want the overall scope of the event. I want it to show diversity. I want to show joy and fun, show the virtuosity, show the uniqueness. Next Stage bought a drone. I've been, using that as my little toy. Use photos or videos to milk that FOMO we spoke about at the beginning, right? And so, like with this, I'm just going to share my screen again. There's actually, before I share my screen, let me say two things. Your channel, your network, your cultivation of your own channels, it has the ability to reach people in a powerful way. And so what I want to say, and I'll show you a video that we made, I should say BCTV made. We had a concert of Sophia Ray, an Argentinian vocalist. It was a 4-piece. There were about 250 people at the event. By all estimations, financially, attendance, the fun, the virtuosity, it all worked out. It was a successful event. And I hired BCTV to produce a video of that event. And I'll share that. But we had 250 people at the event. We posted it on YouTube, and on YouTube, we've had 442 views of that video. I posted it on Facebook, and I put money in, I boosted the video. And as of last night, there were 2,976 views and 327 engagements, right? People clicking and seeing it, sharing it. So, I had almost 4,000 views, engagements, and that doesn't include Instagram. I think there was another couple hundred views as well. I shared pieces there too, as opposed to 250. And so again, we're cultivating that FOMO, that fear of missing out. And the next day somebody goes, oh, that looked like a great event, I should have been there. You know, the next time they see that, hopefully they'll go, you know what, I missed out on that last thing and I don't want to miss out again. I'm going to go. So I'll just kind of share my screen, and I have a couple of things to just show you guys. So the first thing is, actually, this is something fun. So, you know, for us, if a show sells out, we put, hopefully this will load, you know, sold out, you know, something, it's, you know, it's kitschy, but it lets people know, like, you cannot come to this now. You've missed your opportunity, right? So again, that FOMO, that fear of missing out, right? But I want to show you guys. Let's see here. This is that Sophia Ray video, that BCTV. So you kind of get a sense of the video, the fun, and we shared that out. There was another video we had done that BCTV did for us. And, you know, these are really powerful tools that you can also use as you work on future events, that I can share this out with potential collaborators in the future as well. And then this is, I had said, my former nonprofit that I worked with. This is the Avant. And so I would hire a photographer who, you know, believed in what we were doing. And so this was an event we did in the planetarium in the Science Center of Jacksonville. And there was a quartet that came down from New York, and we had 3 designers build custom animation for the dome of the projector. And so, you know, you see these photos after the event and you're like, wow, that looked amazing. And it was. People missed it. We had 2 sold out nights featuring that artist. This is, let's see here. This is a group we brought in called Pharaoh's Daughter. This was also a sold out event. We had like 500 people there. So again, I post these photos on social media. I boost them. I tag the people that were there. They share it with their friends. You know, the reach that these photos have, even our event was sold out, it overpowers the amount of impact that we make at the event. Let's see, what's a good one? This was Uri Kane. We were in the Jacksonville Public Library. So we brought in this piano player from New York, and that's the director of the museum, or not the museum, the library. You know, getting like Lynn said, the celebrity thing, you know, who's your local celebrities that would want to step out and really help you promote your events. This is, let's see, what's another good one? This is the Crocodile River Music Show, right? This photographer I worked with is world class, and he believed in the product. And so he was a part of our team, and he gave me a fair rate around what I could afford to pay him. So I'll stop sharing now. And let me get back to where I was. I'll just kind of close things up here. In closing, a couple things here. After your events, there's a few different things that you can do, right? So I would say have someone or have a team that can give you honest feedback. For me, that is my wife. An event can go amazingly well. People are glowing. There's like joy and love in the air. And I get in the car and I'm able to decompress and talk through all the things that I could have done a better job on. And I don't beat myself up over it. I use them as learning tools going forward. So have your team that you can decompress with afterwards about what worked, what didn't work, what you can do better. And really the last step to producing a great event boils down to gratitude. Reach out to everyone after the event and thank them for their involvement, for their work. Let people know that you appreciate them. This entire sector of event management and marketing really is a sector built on relationships. Invest in your people who invest in you. Make it more than just a concert or a dinner to talk about, it's more than just the thing that you're presenting, and think of it that way. Your job is to create memories and emotional experience. You want people to wake up the next day and talk about it over a cup of coffee with their friends the next day. At the end of all of it, right? The event's over, everybody's home, you've cleaned up, you've done your decompression, you've done your gratitude. You should look like a magician, right? People should marvel at what they just experienced. And in the reality of it, you are in desperate need of a good night's sleep and a day off work. So with that, I'll close. I appreciate the time. Thank you, Lynn, and I appreciate Randy being here and BCTV, and just thank you for allowing me to ramble, rant, and rave. Thank you.
Oh, Keith, I think this was excellent. Absolutely excellent. Now, I don't know if we have time for questions. Are there any questions right now before we have to close? And Nolan, do we actually have to leave right away, or can we stick out for a couple of minutes? Nolan? We have until 9. How about that? All right. So if there are questions, Keith, I'm going to let you handle that. Well, we have thanks, Keith. Blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. Maybe there are no questions.
We've answered all the questions. Randy and me, we are the problem solvers.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, go for it.
Sorry. Keith, when you do all those photographs of the event, videos, do you have to get permission or releases from all those people? How does that work? Do you know?
Next question.
Well, no, you
No.
can, especially for video, you can put up
Okay.
a sign.
Here I am. Can you see me? No.
No. Okay. For
Yeah, as long as people are made aware that they're being filmed
Yes.
and photographed at a public event. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Thank
the
you.
answer. That's the answer. Other questions? Well, you guys think about it. I'm going to tell you what's coming up in terms of other media mentoring topics. There should be a visual for this, but some of the upcoming how to get your voice heard in local media, we've talked about that, sharing advocacy, what makes a good news story, distinction between opinion writing, reporting, again, in press releases, journalism, ethics, etc.
This is all about press, pretty much, right?
Well, it's all about getting your voice heard, depending on who it is. What's your question, Charles?
No question.
Okay, how to get media writing a letter to the editor, the art of the telephone interview, writing an informative and engaging story, writing an effective lead, finding your voice, writing opinion pieces, the art of storytelling, interview to quote, get the right words and getting the words right, organizing and writing a complicated story, art of interviewing and being interviewed, writing an effective lead, tips on writing effective PR, social media copy, set TV, radio, social media, print press, opinion events, etc. How to reach your audience, who are the key influencers and primary and secondary audiences, how to measure success, images and video, picture tells a story, target your media to the topic, writing about your life could be interesting. So these are just some quick samples. We're going to be doing this for years. And some of the stuff may be repetitive, but there will be different people coming into these sessions. We're also going to probably if we actually can get back to doing things in person, there are different exercises we can be doing. We can have people there and checking things and helping people on site, that sort of thing. But if you all have ideas about what you would like us to tackle, please send them to me. I think everybody here has my email address. We're open. As I say, this is the first one, and there's many more to come. So Charles, if you have an idea of what you'd like to hear from us, let me know. Anybody else have any questions or thoughts? You don't have to have a question, but was this helpful? The other thing, actually, speaking of that, the other thing I'm going to do is send you a little sheet to help us as we are growing this program, to help us fine tune it. And just a couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind, that would be helpful for us. Yes. I thought I heard somebody.
Ross has a question in the chat.
Okay, Ross, what is your...
He says, I'd love to get a sense of where you find the balance in good design is design you don't notice and disrupting people's visual cue. So what I mean by that is, let's say, first of all, the quote, it was really in relationship to the overall effect and impact of marketing an event, right? So what I mean by that is, like, if somebody shows up and, the food was, like the event was nice, but the food was terrible, that was bad design. Like, that's what that kind of quote is really meant to inspire. Like, the execution should across the board, but in relationship to disrupting people's visual cue and good design is, imagine stopping at a poster that's amazing and interesting, and you go like, wow, what is that? That leads you deeper down the funnel of where you want someone to go, as opposed to, wow, look at that poster, it's terrible. Why would they use that font? And I can't read it and I can't understand it. Now you're disrupting somebody in a way that the design is taking away from the impact of the poster. And so that's where the play is. So I'm looking to disrupt, but the disruption is meant to bring someone's interest level to engage with the event deeper, so that they eventually, check it out online, buy a ticket, tell a friend, show up, sing the praises, share it on social media, et cetera, et cetera. And Lynn, did you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
So for those of you that want to kind of dive deeper into this and process some of what you're hearing tonight, I was thinking, like, an interesting assignment for you, if you want to kind of tackle some stuff, is go through and take an event that you've done and, go through these steps and write out all the things that you could do differently now that you have some of this awareness. And so I can go back over events that I could have done other things. And those are things that I would put into my list of things that would go in. So I would say, if you want to process and bring some homework next time, go through an event that you've done, or a product that you sell that you're trying to market, or whatever it is that, is applicable to you, and then really try to reimagine the event with all of the things that were discussed this evening about how you could have been more successful.
That's good. And that's a reminder that the next workshop, which is a continuation of this one, is October 13th. And was this a good time for everybody? Maybe you could raise your hand. I don't see anybody hardly. But anyway, I'll email you some stuff anyway, and you can let me know if this was a good time. I mean, is it too late, too early? You know, that would be helpful. The more you guys can help us, that's great. This is the first one, right? So I think, unless there's any other comments or questions.
I'll ask a question.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask, it's a big question, but I guess I'll start my video, about considerations having to do with COVID. There's a certain amount that's different right now because of, I'm about to do this open studio event this weekend, and I'm thinking outside, inside, doors and windows open. How do you put it out there to the public that you want to invite people, but things are a little different right now in that regard.
Yeah, we're actually dealing with that also with the Putney Craft Tour.
Mm-hmm.
And our thoughts would be, we will insist on people wearing masks.
Mm-hmm.
We will ask if they've been vaccinated, but they don't have to show proof. So we're just hoping people are trustful. And of course, in our media, we will also be mentioning those things. It's a tough call. Mm-hmm. And some folks may decide, actually, we don't know what's going to happen because our event is Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Some folks may decide, some artists may decide that they're just going to do it online and they're not going to actually invite people. So that's, a little tricky in terms of our messaging, but yeah, it's a hard call. Keith, any thoughts?
I mean, I think this is the kind of like going into it should be another topic of conversation.
Yeah.
But
right.
I would say that you have to do with what you feel you feel most comfortable with, right? And then you need to go into the experience from your user. Will people want to come, and how will they want to engage? And whatever you choose to do, execute at the highest level possible, right? I think people will be forgiving to all of the arts sector to understand the stress around presenting arts in this climate. And anybody that's not going to be forgiving to that probably doesn't really need to be an audience member in our theater, in our sector, so I'm going to be erring on the side of doing what's right for the community, and we're going to try to execute at the highest level possible. And I would say that not to get caught up in the
oh, we're losing you.
Oh, you're losing me?
Yeah, just for a second. Okay.
I would say, from a Buddhist perspective, being in hell is being stuck between two decisions, right? Make a decision, live with it, lean into it, execute at the highest possible level. And whatever that is, that energy will be felt. So.
You're here.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think if there are no other questions or thoughts, we're probably going to close. Randy, did you have any last minute thoughts?
All I can say is just be timely, be write well, and make sure. And if you want to nudge me for to make sure something gets in, it's okay. Send along an email if you haven't had a response. I frequently respond to people, but most times we turn it around as quickly as we can. And be patient with us. We're patient, and because It's a two-way street. If we work together, we get your event gets promoted.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest points of doing these kinds of events, and especially the media mentoring, is that we want to hear from you. We want to know what you want us to be covering. It helps us. We want to be as close to the community as we can. And I think a lot of people respect and love the Commons, but sometimes we can get stuck. And the more we hear from you, the better.